Last week on Plugin Friday, I talked to you about the vintage compressor included in Cubase. And this time around, we are going to look at the TUBE compressor, also included in Cubase. Hey, what's going on, my friends? Chris here from MIXDOWN Online. If you're new here on the channel, feel free to subscribe, to click the notification bell so you don't miss anything. And for all of you, you know the drill, share and like if you enjoy this video. After last week's video, I had a lot of questions regarding the TUBE compressor. So I decided to do a video right away talking about this very cool compressor also included in Cubase. So let's jump in and look at what we have here with the TUBE compressor. It is a very simple and very nice GUI. The TUBE compressor will emulate, in a way, the famous LA2A. Now, there's a few differences compared to a real LA2A, and I'm going to explain that to you later on. But, you know, in general, it has a bit of the same type of vibe. So first, what we have here on the top left, we have the input meter, and on the right side, we have the output meter. And of course, we have an input and an output knob, same as we have on the vintage compressor. So there's no threshold. So you need to balance your gain reduction according to what's coming in the compressor. And this input control will give you the ability to add or to decrease or add the amount of signal in the compressor. And then you balance that out with the output. So the more input you're going to add, the louder the sound will get, okay? So that's why we have the output to balance things out afterwards. Then talking about gain reduction, we have the gain reduction meter right here on top. And then we have drive. Now drive is quite interesting because this is gonna add a bit of a tube saturation, which is quite nice. Then we have character. Now character is gonna work with drive. What character will do is, if you have like a lot of drive going on, it will preserve the attack of lower frequencies by just reducing the amount of tube saturation on lower frequencies. And also it's going to add a bit of harmonics on the top end of the signal, okay, so which is quite nice. Okay, we'll test that out a bit later. Then we have the attack and release. That is a bit like the one found on the vintage compressor. So it goes down to 0.1 milliseconds, up to 100 milliseconds for the attack, and then from 10 milliseconds up to 1,000 milliseconds for the release time. Now, this is different than what we have on a classic LA2A. Now, a classic LA2A is going to work differently. Its attack is going to be frequency dependent, okay? And it's going to be at an average of 10 milliseconds. But what makes the LA2A unique, and this is something that we don't have here on this plugin, is the release time. The release time of an LA2A goes from around 60 milliseconds for 50% of the release time. Then for the balance of the release time, it's going to go from 1 second to 15 seconds, okay, so which is quite unique. But on this TUBE compressor, we don't have that. We have a full controlled attack and release. Then we have mix, which again will balance the dry signal with the processed signal. Then we have the ratio, which goes from low to high. So those are the only two choices we have. Low will be at a ratio of around 3:1, and high is going to go above 10:1. Okay, so this is for the ratio. Then we have the auto, which is like the vintage compressor, the auto release option here. Then we have the side chain. Now this is quite nice. This is an internal side chain because we also have, like on the vintage compressor, we also have the external side chain to have an external signal feeding the detector circuit out of this compressor. But we also have the internal side chain that is actually a filter. Now this is quite practical. So let's say, okay, I have an high pass filter set up to 300 hertz. Now what's going to happen here is that all frequencies below 300 hertz are not going to be detected by the detector circuit of the compressor. So the compressor will react according to everything that comes above 300 hertz in my case. So this is going to just give you a smoother compression, and it's going to avoid the lower frequencies to be detected by the detector circuit of the compressor. Now, to be clear, the compressor will still compress the full range signal. Okay, the entire signal will be compressed, but it will be compressed according to what's coming above 300 hertz in my case. So this is what the sidechain filter does. So let's try a few things here. I have a dry vocal, and let's work with the drive parameter here to check how that sounds like.
We will one by one, we gotta go. Where we go, nobody knows. We all got a price to pay. We're all trying to find a way. I don't know if we will find truth before we cross the line.
So as you can hear, it adds some tube saturation, which is quite nice. Now, it's always about the right balance. Make sure that it sounds good if you add a lot of drive. Now, by using the drive, we can also add a bit more character, which again is going to add some high harmonics to the sound, and it's going to keep the lower frequencies to be affected by the tube compressor. I'm going to try it on the vocal, but also on a full mix afterwards.
One by one, we gotta go. Where we go, nobody knows. We all got a price to pay. We're all trying to find a way. I don't know if we will find truth before we cross the line. End is near without a doubt.
So there you go. So this is how it sounds like. And now let's play with the attack and release to have something a bit more suitable. Let's go with a 10, 11 milliseconds of attack and bring that one down. Let's go with 60.
One by one, we gotta go. Where we go, nobody knows. We all got a price to pay. We're all trying to find a way. I don't know if we will find truth before we cross the line. End is near without a doubt. There's so much to...
So there you go. So that's pretty cool. So this is how this tube compressor sounds on a lead vocal. Now I'm going to insert that tube compressor on the mix bus of this quick mix. Now, usually, if I'm not using any other plugins than Cubase plugins, I'm going to try this one with directly on the mix bus, but I'm going to mix into it. If I want to add this tube compressor after the fact, after I'm mixing, I want to add that to the mix bus. The thing I need to consider is the low ratio right here. That goes at around 3:1. That might be a bit too much on the mix bus, depending on the mix you are working on. If, for example, I add a compressor at the end of the mix, once I'm done mixing, I'm going to tend to go with a low ratio. But if I want to mix into compression, and again, that goes according to the genre mixing. But if I mix in compression, meaning that I have my compressor on my mix bus, the minute I start mixing, I don't mind, using a higher ratio setting in that case. And then I tend to just keep that at maybe a gain reduction of 2 dBs or so. So those are general guidelines that I tend to do, but everything can be different from a mix to another mix. Now, let's try this one out. Okay, now it's compressing a bit too much, so let's try to add the sidechain. So I'm gonna put my sidechain at high pass filter, and then, everything that goes below 300 Hertz will not be detected by the detector circuit of that compressor. So this monitor is pretty cool. So that helps you to determine what you are doing with your sidechain, with your internal filter sidechain. So this will monitor all the frequencies that are going to be detected by the detector. Okay, as you can tell, when my sidechain is not activated, I have way more gain reduction. That is normal because lower frequencies tend to have way more energy. Okay, so they're going to get detected by the compressor because the compressor is going to react to what has more energy in the first place, and lower frequencies have more energy than higher frequencies. So that's why we have way more gain reduction. So this is the TUBE compressor, very good compressor. I love the vibe that it creates, especially the control that you have over the tube saturation, and also that character parameter here. That is quite nice. That again works with the drive. Then the sidechain also is something very cool. The internal sidechain function is working great on this plugin. Now, the TUBE compressor works well on vocals, bass, all sustained instruments. It can also be a good candidate on the mix bus, but that will depend on the genre of music you're mixing, and also if you're adding that compressor after you're done mixing or while you are mixing, just because the ratio goes at around 3:1. So I'm just always careful when I add this one on my mix bus. It just depends. But nothing stops you on using the mix knob right here to blend the dry signal with the processed signal. And that can work also very well on the mix bus. So there you go, my friends. This is the TUBE compressor included in Cubase. I hope that was helpful. If so, share and like. And subscribe to the channel if you're new here. And if you have any questions or comments, leave everything down below. And don't forget to download my free guide on the fundamentals of compression. Link is down below. Until next time, take care and see you.